Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing stillness over noise, wisdom over impulse, and truth over illusion. If you've come looking for a secret, I want you to know this: the market does not hide its truth. We do. And tonight, I want to gently uncover something that can change the rest of your trading life. There is a moment, a quiet moment, when destiny whispers before it ever shouts. A moment when success is decided long before the outcome appears on a screen. Most people miss it. They're busy chasing indicators, signals, opinions. But wealth is born in a far quieter place in what you choose to focus on and what you finally let go of. I've spent a lifetime watching people work harder than they need to, suffer longer than they should, and complicate something that was never meant to be complicated. And if I could sit across from you right now, look you in the eyes, and say just one thing, it would be this: trading only asks 2 things of you. Not 10, not 50. Just 2. Everything else is noise. In the beginning, I was just like everyone else. Searching, consuming, studying charts late into the night, convinced that the next piece of information would finally make me confident. I believed the market rewarded intelligence, effort, and prediction. I believed if I just knew more, I'd feel safe. But the market doesn't reward what you know. It rewards how you think and how you behave when you don't know. I remember a trade early on. The setup was perfect. The analysis was solid. Every rule was followed. And I still lost. That loss shook me, not because of the money, but because it challenged my belief that certainty was possible. I took it personally. I questioned myself. And in doing so, I made the same mistake millions make every day. I tried to control what cannot be controlled. That's when the first truth revealed itself. The first thing you must focus on in trading is risk. Not profit, not potential. Risk. Most people get this backward. They look at how much they can make before they ever consider how much they can lose. And that simple reversal quietly destroys careers. When you define risk before you enter a trade, you free your mind. You're no longer hoping, you're accepting. And acceptance is the foundation of clarity. When I finally learned to see risk as a cost of doing business, rather than a threat to my identity, everything changed. Losses stopped feeling like failures. They became routine, expected, neutral. And when losses lose their emotional charge, they lose their power over you. I've seen traders with brilliant strategies fail because they couldn't tolerate a small loss. And I've seen average traders succeed because they respected risk like a law of nature. The market doesn't care how right you are. It only responds to how prepared you are to be wrong. The second thing, the only other thing you truly need to focus on, is consistency. Not intensity. Not motivation. Consistency. Consistency is not about forcing yourself to trade every day. It's about showing up the same way emotionally, regardless of outcome. It's about executing your edge without hesitation and without attachment. 1 trade means nothing. 10 trades mean little. A series of trades tells the truth. There was a season where I took fewer trades than ever before. I waited. I passed on opportunities that didn't align perfectly. Others thought I was missing out, but I wasn't missing anything. I was protecting something far more valuable than money: my state of mind. Because once your mind is stable, the results take care of themselves. Most traders don't fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they can't repeat the right behavior long enough for probability to work in their favor. They abandon consistency at the first sign of discomfort. They confuse uncertainty with danger. And in doing so, they step out of alignment with the very process that could free them. Here's what no one tells you: the market is not a test of intelligence. It's a test of emotional maturity. If you can define your risk and execute consistently, you don't need to predict. You don't need to be right. You don't need to win often. You just need to stay present, calm, detached, patient. I've watched people chase success like it's running away from them. But success isn't running. It's waiting quietly for you to become someone who can hold it. And this is only the beginning. Because in the next part, we'll go deeper into why the mind resists simplicity, why boredom is a sign of mastery, and how focusing on just these 2 things can bring not only profit, but peace. Most people struggle not because trading is hard, but because simplicity feels uncomfortable. The mind wants stimulation. It wants certainty. It wants to feel busy. And the market quietly punishes that need. The lessons become more internal, more personal, because once you understand risk and consistency on the surface, the real work begins beneath it. I remember a phase when my results improved, but my peace disappeared. The account was growing, yet my sleep wasn't. Every open position felt heavy. Every tick felt personal. And that's when I realized something important: I was doing the right things, but for the wrong reasons. I was still seeking validation from outcomes. That's when the deeper meaning of consistency revealed itself. Consistency is not about repeating actions. It's about repeating states of mind. If you enter a trade calm one day and anxious the next, that's not consistency. If you follow rules when things go well but abandon them when pressure rises, that's not consistency. True consistency is emotional. It's the ability to remain the same person in the face of changing results. I had to train myself to treat every trade as ordinary. No trade was allowed to matter. Because the moment a trade matters, you're no longer trading the market, you're trading your expectations. There was a losing streak once that tested everything I believed. Not dramatic. Not catastrophic. Just enough losses in a row to make doubt whisper. In the past, that whisper would have turned into action, overtrading, tweaking, forcing. This time, I did nothing. I stayed with my process. I honored my risk, and I let probability do its work. That restraint felt unnatural, almost irresponsible. But that's the paradox. Discipline often feels like an action. Yet it's the most powerful action you can take. This is where many traders break. They want progress to feel exciting. They want growth to feel fast. But the market rewards endurance, not urgency. When you accept that, impatience loses its grip. Another truth became clear during this period. Focusing on profit creates emotional volatility. Focusing on execution creates emotional stability. When your only job is to execute well, define risk consistently, the outcome becomes irrelevant. And when outcomes are irrelevant, fear disappears. Not because you're fearless, but because there's nothing left to protect. I also learned that boredom is not a problem. Boredom is a sign that your ego is no longer in control. The best periods of my trading life were quiet, almost dull. No dramatic swings, no emotional highs, just steady execution. And that steadiness compounded in ways excitement never could. There's a reason most people don't last in this profession. It's not the losses. It's the waiting. It's the stillness. It's the requirement to trust a process without immediate reward. But if you can learn to wait without frustration, to lose without reaction, to win without attachment, you cross an invisible line. On the other side of that line, trading stops being a struggle and starts becoming a practice. And something interesting happens when you stop struggling, your results improve. Not because you found a better setup, but because you stopped interfering with the one you already had. This is where trading becomes a mirror of life. When you chase outcomes in life, you feel anxious. When you define your risk and act consistently in life, you feel grounded. The principles don't change, only the context does. Risk in life is choosing without guarantees. Consistency in life is showing up aligned with your values regardless of circumstances. When you focus on these two things in trading or in life, clarity replaces confusion, confidence replaces hope, and peace replaces fear. We're almost there now. Because in the final part, I want to talk about what happens when you truly live by these two principles, not just as a trader, but as a human being. Then let me leave you with this final truth spoken softly, but meant to stay with you long after this video ends. When you strip trading down to its essence, when you remove the noise, the opinions, the endless searching, what remains is not a system, it's a way of being. Only focus on these two things, risk and consistency, and you begin to live differently. You stop fighting uncertainty and start cooperating with it. You stop demanding guarantees and start honoring probabilities. You stop trying to be right and start learning how to be present. Risk teaches you humility. It reminds you that nothing is promised, that control is an illusion, and that peace comes from acceptance, not prediction. When you define your risk clearly, you give your mind permission to relax. You no longer carry the weight of what if. You've already accepted the worst before you begin. And in that acceptance, fear loses its voice. Consistency teaches you trust. Not blind trust in outcomes, but deep trust in yourself. Trust that you can show up the same way today, tomorrow, and next month. Trust that you don't need to force results for them to arrive. Trust that small, disciplined actions repeated over time can create extraordinary change. When these two principles guide you, something beautiful happens. You become calm in situations that once triggered panic. You become patient where you once felt rushed. You begin to see opportunities without feeling compelled to act on every one of them. And slowly, quietly, your relationship with money changes. Money stops being emotional. Money stops being personal. Money becomes informational. And when money is no longer emotional, it no longer controls you. That's the real freedom. Not financial freedom in the sense of numbers and lifestyles, but mental freedom. The freedom to act without fear. The freedom to wait without frustration. The freedom to accept losses without self-judgment and wins without ego. This is what abundance really looks like. It's waking up without anxiety. It's making decisions without pressure. It's trusting your process even when the outcome is unknown. So if you remember nothing else from this message, remember this. You don't need more indicators. You don't need more opinions. You don't need to predict the future. Only focus on managing your risk and showing up consistently as your best, calmest, most disciplined self. Everything else, the profits, the confidence, the growth will follow in their own time. And when they do, you'll be ready to receive them peacefully, wisely, without losing yourself in the process. There comes a moment in every trader's life when they realize the market was never the problem. The charts weren't the obstacle. The losses weren't the enemy. The real challenge was always internal, the constant urge to do more, know more, be more instead of becoming still enough to see what actually matters. Only focusing on two things doesn't feel powerful at first. It feels limiting, almost uncomfortable, because the ego wants options. It wants flexibility. It wants excuses. But mastery doesn't live in flexibility. It lives in commitment. When you truly commit to managing risk and staying consistent, you remove every hiding place. You can no longer blame the market, the news, the indicators, or bad luck. Every result becomes honest feedback. And honesty, while uncomfortable, is incredibly freeing. I remember a trader who once told me, "I just need one big win to change everything." He wasn't looking for profit. He was looking for relief. Relief from pressure. Relief from doubt. Relief from the feeling of being behind in life. But the market never gives relief on demand. It only rewards readiness. That's why focusing on these two things reshapes not just your trading, but your character. Risk management teaches you boundaries. It teaches you self-respect. You stop putting yourself in situations where a single outcome can damage your confidence or your future. You begin to think long-term. And when you think long-term, desperation disappears. Consistency teaches you identity. You stop asking, "Did I win today?" and start asking, "Did I act like the person I'm committed to becoming?" That shift is subtle, but it's everything. Because when your identity is stable, outcomes can fluctuate without shaking you. This is the moment trading stops being emotional labor and starts becoming intentional practice. You realize you don't need excitement to feel fulfilled. You don't need constant action to feel productive. You don't need validation from the market to feel worthy. You begin to experience something rare, a quiet confidence. The kind of confidence that doesn't announce itself. The kind that doesn't rush. The kind that stays grounded whether the day ends green or red. And here's the paradox most people never accept. When you stop trying to extract something from the market begins to give. Not because it owes you. Not because you figured it out, but because you finally stopped interfering. This is where abundance becomes peaceful. You trade less but better. You think less but clearer. You react less but respond wisely. And slowly, without forcing it, your results align with your discipline. So if you're listening to this and feeling overwhelmed, scattered, or tired, this is your permission to simplify. To let go of everything that isn't essential. To stop searching outward for answers that only exist inward. Only focus on managing your risk. Only focus on being consistent. Everything we have spoken about comes down to one quiet truth. The market does not reward effort, intelligence, or ambition. It rewards alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions move in the same direction, results become a natural byproduct, not a struggle. Only focusing on two things, managing your risk and staying consistent, is not about doing less. It is about becoming more. More aware, more disciplined, more grounded. When you accept risk before you act, fear loosens its grip. When you act consistently regardless of outcome, doubt begins to fade. And when fear and doubt no longer control you, clarity takes their place. Abundance is not something you chase. It is something you allow. It flows toward those who are calm enough to receive it, patient enough to sustain it, and humble enough to respect it. The moment you stop asking the market to prove something to you, it stops testing you. Remember this as you move forward. You are not here to conquer the market. You are here to cooperate with uncertainty, to participate without attachment, to act with intention, not impulse. When you do that, trading becomes peaceful, purposeful, and quietly powerful. Let your days be guided by simplicity. Let your decisions be grounded in clarity. Let your results unfold without force. Whether the outcome is a win or a loss, let it pass through you without judgment, knowing you honored your process. And in that space, that calm, centered space, wealth becomes more than money. It becomes freedom of thought, stability of emotion, confidence without noise, peace without conditions. Stay disciplined, stay patient, stay aligned. The market will always be uncertain, but you don't have to be. That's not limitation, that's liberation. Stay patient, stay grounded, and trust the quiet power of simplicity.